Am I starting this? Are you starting this?
You normally start them. Oh no, wait. These are the ones that are just a mess, and we don't know how to start
These are a
them.
mess.
Gotcha. Welcome to the Alchemy Lab, everyone. Matt counted us in with a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4, like we were a jazz triplet. I am your lead piano player, Lee Simmons. I'm here with bassist Matthew Waterhouse.
Boom, 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 boom.
And jazz flautist.
I knew you were going to go jazz flute.
You've got to, right?
Got the jazz flute.
Jazz flautist, Carl Weir.
If you weren't going to do it, I was going to call myself
Someone was
jazz flute.
going to do jazz flute.
So, hey, Daddy-O, what are we talking about today? Give it a bat.
So, after many years, probably if I check my MacBook, I can see that like all of the secrets are held on this really heavy MacBook Pro.
Don't do it to yourself, Lee. It will just hurt.
And yeah, as you know, once upon a time, we all played D&D together. D&D 4th edition. I ran the game, and it was a long-term game. Years and years we played this together. And then Matt went on his merry travels to discover far off lands. He went to China, and
discovered racism.
Oh yeah, that was a thing, wasn't it?
Mm.
What a throwback! What a throwback! And yeah, the guys asked if I could create a sci-fi game for them. We hadn't finished our previous game, and we still haven't to this day. That we are still cruising towards this portal on the top of a pyramid on an airship with Kraken sails, if I remember. We never got to the end of that, but the guys wanted to play sci-fi, so I went, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll put something together. I looked at the D&D Dungeon Master's book and went through all of the source material and went, this doesn't really work. I've got a really good idea. I'll make my own system. Mistake number 1, ladies, gentlemen, boys of water. This is a disease. This is a creative's disease that is very transmissible, as we've just found out in a little chat we were doing about another game project that Matt has started.
I'm supposed to be writing a novel.
Look at that face. But the game looks fun. It looks fun. And then he immediately passed it back to me as, well, we have lots of systems going on. And throughout the years that you watch us, you will see each and every one and hopefully play each and every one. Alchemy has been the longest standing one, as it has been over a decade since this has been going through. It has gone through more iterations that I can count. I thought we were on the seventh iteration of it, but then I realized I just turned it into years and months. So we're actually on the 13th iteration. Unlucky for some, but not for you, ladies and gentlemen, bodies of water, because of all of this OGL debacle, which they have inevitably turned tail and run back to their cave with. But we'll see how that goes. I was tempted in by the Alchemy Lab channel and our good friend Arcadian to bring this to you lovely people. So we will be finishing the Streets of Mir with the Alchemy RPG system, which means I need to finally finish it. It is finished. I've got a deadline and everything. We were all at a party over the weekend, and I just straight up asked Matt, when do you want it done? And he's like, oh, I'm not sure, man. And then he saw the look in my eyes that said, please give me a date. Please.
No more freedom.
I'm begging you.
Tied down.
Give me a date. So we now have a date for when this will be complete for us, transferring over from 5th edition to the ART, the Alchemy RPG Toolkit.
Oh,
we love. It's always been called that. I've just never actually said it.
Yeah,
it's buried in one of the iterations that it's called that anyway. Back when it was called Darklight, which was going to be the sci-fi one.
That was the sci-fi set, yeah.
And it still is. I looked on there,
Hmm.
and the last thing I had was a map for Darklight.
I think I vaguely remember this map, to be honest.
This was when
Oh,
this was
man.
when we actually did D&D
In space.
sci-fi, because I eventually did it. It was very
We
easy
did,
to do.
didn't we?
It was
Yeah.
super easy to do, actually. I just moved some things about and basically battered them with a purple worm.
And then we played D&D.
Yeah.
But I think because we've mentioned alchemy a few times.
Yeah.
Over the course of a couple of videos.
Mhm.
So the main question we want to answer with this video, ask and answer, but mainly answer, is what on earth is alchemy?
I'm glad you asked that. So that's half of the video done already. We've done the asks. Now we
can do the
answer.
answer.
Now the answering, the complicated bit is answering it.
Yeah, so the story version of it, as you just know, was that I wanted to create a system that could work in another genre. I wanted something that could work for a sci-fi. Now, if you're clever enough and you don't get bitten by the fucking game maker virus, you can pretty much change a system to do whatever you want. And I was so in the dark, like a battered spouse, that I thought D&D was the only tabletop RPG around at that point. Really could have used something like the Star Wars RPG, fantastic RPG system, really enjoy it.
The thing is, you're not alone in that. Like, I think the best thing to come out of the whole OGL thing is that everyone's like, oh, there's other games.
Oh damn, there's
There's
other things
loads
out
of
there.
them. Yeah.
Blades in the Dark, I can just about robbing stuff. Wow.
Blades in the Dark.
Like, how
awesome.
many people go into an RPG and just play a thief? Like you go into Morrowind. Before I got out of Sadanin, I was making bank in that game. I remember.
You'd ruined the world's economy.
I'd robbed all of the houses, all of the silver was gone, and there
It
was
wasn't
a
nailed
big
down,
old
Lee
bag
took
of
it.
gold on me. So there's plenty of systems out there that you can use. And if you don't get bitten by the bug like I did, and have now given it over to these gentlemen here, and maybe onto you people here, if I could give you some something to take that away, I would, but unfortunately sometimes it gets you. I wanted a system that could work with another genre, and then I was like, well, what if we could do it with any genre? Can we make this genre agnostic? So that really is what it is. It's a RPG system where you can just make up a story, be it a Western, which was the first proper one that we did with Carl. You can do it in sci-fi, you can use it in fantasy, urban fantasy,
zombie survival.
Zombie survival.
Oh yeah.
We did that one as well, didn't we? We did like a Fallout-esque kind of thing.
Yep.
If you really love a vibe or a style or something, you can pick up the Alchemy RPG toolkit and go, okay, we can whack this in. This will work, because we don't give you any equipment to use. We don't give you any sort of very specific skills to use, like more sort of genre focused systems we'll use. Here is a very I would say not complex, but it's a robust system, because it's taken me that long to make it that robust, to be able to be used in any setting that you'd like.
I think that's the tricky bit, making it versatile enough to work in any system.
Yeah. So a word of warning, ladies and gentlemen, bodies of water. If you do want to make a tabletop role-playing system that can be robust like that, it may take you a long time, especially if you're a bit of a perfectionist / procrastinator like myself. It'll take you a while to do that. Much easier if you want to cut your teeth and actually get into sort of game development. Focus on something you really love. Okay, it would have been much easier for me to have very sci-fi based skills,
Just a
sci-fi based weapons, and that's actually how it started. This is how Alchemy started, and then I just bit off more than I can chew, and here we are.
Well, coming into Alchemy itself, I think it's as much a game system as it is a sort of collaborative storytelling and creation system.
One of the things that we've always said when we were talking about it between the three of us is that we viewed it more as a toolkit for telling a story, as opposed to a mechanical system of playing a game in a way. It still lets you play the game, and there's still checks and oppositions and this sort of stuff. But ultimately, the whole point of it was to be collaborative, and we built that in from point zero in terms of one of the core tenets we did when we came up together was right world building. It's often one of the things that the GM does themselves, and then other people come in and then later on bring their character into that world and use it to flesh it out a little bit. So, just to give a quick example, the Wild West setting that we played with is something that I came up with very quickly. What if magic happened around the American Civil War and vampires were a thing? That was the baseline I came into it with. Civil War extended, US is fucked, world's broken because magic is now unleashed and all sorts of weird things exist.
And something happened in Tallahassee.
Well, no, that was not me. And that's what I was about to say. So, with the way we built was like, the idea would be that the GM would come in with a basic framework of the world. Here is how the world state is. Let's fill it out between us all. And this works for every player. You don't even know who your character has to be at that point to do this. That's the whole point. You're just building the world out, which might inspire you to make a character that will fit in that world. Through all of this, at the time, Lee and Matt, they knew who they were going to be. So they already had their characters, and they were using that backstory to infer the world. So from that now, there's a key point in that world's history that I use, which is the Battle of Tallahassee. Because both of these guys came up with this idea that something monumental happened at Tallahassee.
I didn't even know where it was, and then after that game I found out it's in Florida.
Yeah. And that was where our characters met, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was indeed.
You were both
Tallahassee.
You were both survivors of the Battle of Tallahassee. So
opposing sides, no less.
Opposing sides, yeah.
It's not just this. The core game was set in America, but we fleshed out, I think, partially fleshed out through other play sessions with other people, part of Russia's history.
Russia, a bit of Europe.
So we had that Russia was then controlled by a faction of werewolves, because that was one of the players' backstories, that he travelled through Russia and worked with werewolves. One of the guys brought dwarves into the world.
And there was a big tunnel, wasn't there, back to like the Nordic and Scandinavian countries.
Which was where the dwarves were, and he even had it that actually the ancient dwarves had now been corrupted by vampirism, and they were living a natural life and lying about it. The thing is that it allowed every player to connect to that world immediately, because their history, their character, if they were using a character, or they could build someone who had a direct connection to it. Their background helped build out the world, which you cared about the world because you already had an impact in it.
I think what this actually demonstrates as well, like we talk about this as if this is very recent and very sort of like immediate information. This was years ago. This was pre-pandemic.
7
years ago.
6 or 7 years ago.
So the first time we played it with just the two of you was 7. The time we played it with a couple of other friends that Matt wasn't present for because he was actually traveling at the time was in the last 5.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first time was with us and Tom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And then we found the first way to break alchemy. Tom found the first way to break alchemy and base it in and ruined it, which is good. It's good for a playtest. But I think what this actually makes it really good for sort of a point of the system is that, the collaborative world building element makes these worlds really memorable. I can't remember much else I was doing 7 years ago. I'd really have to think. But we've just been kicking it around. I can remember that the dwarves were built a tunnel. And the tunnel had then been sealed off. That was half a decade ago.
Well, another important aspect to alchemy is how it's played.
Yes.
So we don't
what I found is that I actually have the most recent alchemy role-playing toolkit book in front of me, and the first page is "What is alchemy?" Would you like me to read it?
Sneak peek. What
does it say?
It says this: "What is alchemy? Alchemy is a modular storytelling game." So exactly what you guys said there. This is not a role-playing game. This is a storytelling game, where your characters have to deal with internal and external conflicts created by the alchemist, i.e. your game master, your dungeon master, whatever you want to call them. The alchemist generates this conflict by creating challenging scenes for the players to engage in. The players, in turn, use aspects unique to their protagonist to resolve the situations they find themselves in. These strengths are represented by numbers and phrases decided upon before the adventure begins. Every character has 3 areas or aspects on a sliding scale of capability: their mental aspect, their physical aspect, and their social aspect. These aspects determine how well your protagonist will deal with a certain type of scene, what skills they can use within it, what actions they can make, and how much of a pummeling they can take within them. And they will take a pummeling.
And they will take a pummeling. So I think we can sort of, because I think if we carry on there, we'll start getting into mechanics. We're not mechanics. We'll get into that later. But there is one.
There's a lot of buzzwords in there. Yeah.
There's one mechanic specifically that we should point out, and that is how it's played.
How it's played. Yeah.
Not played with dice.
Dice.
It is
with
played
various sides of dice. Show us, Matt.
It's played with these here.
Cards, playing cards, ladies and gentlemen, bodies of water. Why? Because when I started 4th edition, I had to do two things. I had to buy a really big book, really heavy book, and loads of bloody dice. Now, buying dice is very fun. I'm sure everyone watching this has a specific set of dice that they really, really like to use. There's Matt. I know Carl has his metal dice, and he's got lots of different dice there. Every single person that I've played with has dice. They have all of these accessories, very good for people that make them. Obviously, they can make a bit of money out of them. But this was another thing that we wanted the Alchemy role-playing toolkit to be: ease of access into the world of tabletop role-playing games. We have had so much fun playing this for, well, basically half of my life. I've played tabletop role-playing games in one way or another, with these guys, with other people that I've just met. I went to a club once where I'd go there every couple of weeks and play all these different systems. I've had so much fun playing, but it can be a bit difficult to get in sometimes. Right, I've got to get my dice and I've got to get this book and things like that. You can find a pack of playing cards in your house anywhere. You can definitely buy really fancy playing decks. Matt has done exactly this.
I've done it previously.
And I've done it too. The amount of
gold.
I also have gold cards. Of course you do. And
it was my birthday recently. That's my defense.
I imagine, should you come into this, I'm sure you may also buy gold-plated cards, silver-plated cards, cards with stars and sexy ladies or men on them. Who knows? I remember. Do you remember like back in the 90s where you'd have like pin-up girl cards? I remember those. Just every card would just have a semi-naked lady on it, you know.
Yeah.
Or you could just
all the good old days.
Oh, the good old days. Or you could just get a pack of cards for like 50p from a shop somewhere.
Or just look in
or
look
50
in the
cents.
messy drawer. Look in the messy drawer in your house. Every person has a messy drawer in their
You'll
house.
find cards somehow.
You will find a pack of cards there.
And so an Allen key, but the Allen key is not useful for this situation.
You're not sure where it goes. There's loads of wires that no longer
attached to anything.
There'll be SCART cables, and
there'll be a Chinese takeover menu about 25 years old.
Absolutely.
To a place that doesn't exist anymore, but anyway. We digress.
But we wanted ease of access into the world of tabletop role-playing because it is so much fun to be there with your friends, snacking on stuff you shouldn't be eating, drinking stuff you shouldn't be drinking, sitting there for hours and hours, shooting the shit, having fun, and then going, oh wow, do you remember when I did that thing? Yeah, and then when I did that, and it's a really good night, you know. So let's make it as easy to get into this as possible. Get the rules, get a pack of cards, get your character sheet. You're good to go. That was the second thing, absolutely, and that was a real necessity for me.
Yeah,
I think this is part of. I said in that video I wouldn't talk about it again. This is part of what I think has created so much anger with the OGL stuff. It's that this is a thing that is very personal to people.
Yeah.
We do we've done these types of things. We've played these games. We've developed this game together, and we've developed we are developing other stuff together. The one sheets that I'm going to have about 20 of them probably at some point.
And they will appear on this channel at some point.
All of them will appear on the channel at some point.
I mean, I think you're right. I think part of that is that, you know, we actually said Alchemy for us is a collaborative storytelling game as opposed to a role-playing game, because I think with everyone who plays any TTRPG for long enough will have those moments where there's something happens that just clicks and you just get that attachment to it suddenly. You know, it could be your character doing something insane and saving the party or killing a BBG, an endgame, whatever.
In
Carl's moment.
In Carl's Wild West, I rolled a crit in a whorehouse.
I
didn't roll a crit. I played a crit.
You carded a crit.
I played a crit.
Yeah.
I played a crit in a whorehouse and made Carl be the whore and tell me what happened. Which I think brings us on to something else then. So we're using cards, but so there's an element of chance within this. There's 52 cards. You're not going to be playing them all the time. You're going to have a hand of cards while you play Alchemy. Every scene you go into, any kind of dangerous or tricky situation, you will have a number of cards with you, and it kind of acts as a bit of a resource management game going through this. So you're not completely reliant on Lady Luck, but after a while that deck is going to start to be discarded. It's going to get thinner. So if you really want to spend a card on a whorehouse and make Carl do funny voices, then spend that really high card, but eventually you might need
You're going to regret it. Because that card will
I regretted nothing.
Hey, it helped me kick off the storyline. I'm not going to complain.
Well, it's an interesting thing as well, like what the memorable stuff that comes out of it, because it's so rich in story, and because you're all kind of working together, it does pop out. All of the memorable stuff, like Doc.
Doc, I love Doc.
Doc's pipe.
Doc, without a doubt. So this is think for me. Doc's character.
I think this is really where
he's just one of my favorite ones. One of my favorite characters I've ever played within an RPG as an unless it's alchemist, but GM, because it was so against type. In terms of how it was, he always was smoking, had a shotgun. It was just perfect, and it made that really memorable for us.
I think this is where sort of Ender's pipe comes from. Really.
Yeah.
A little bit, the origin of Ender's pipe.
I'll also put out a little bit of Ozic as well, being a healer.
Doc
was not built for combat. Doc was Doc first. He just had a shotgun because he needed a weapon.
Yep.
He did have a shotgun. Let's not forget he did have a big shotgun.
He had a shotgun, but that's the point. It was a shotgun. It required the least amount of training to wield it. It was not like it wasn't a rifle. It was, I'm just going to put a big cone of bullets in this location. But I could rattle other characters, other moments from other times you played and still stick with me. I mean, the second one that comes to mind immediately is one of the players in the other time that myself and Lee played this well without Matt. He managed to convince an entire town to basically turn into a militia to try and resist a bunch of vampires around the town.
Oh yeah.
I didn't plan for that at all, but this is the thing, because that's what his character was built to do. He was thought, I'm like, I'm not going to stop him. I'll let him go. I'll let him work. If it works, it works. I will adapt around it. But that's the beauty of the system for me, because it's so freeform like that. It does make it easier to adapt, because you don't have all these crunchy mechanics in it that force you to. You've got to roll for this. You've got to check this. You've got to do for this. It just means that you can let those role play moments that I think can be lacking in D&D because you eat too much in the dice roll for stuff to happen more.
Was Cassius in the in the whorehouse as well? It was always fun. Chatting up everybody, and like one of the and it kind of extends out from Alchemy. Like one of the characters that I made, and sort of one that you made, Carl, ended up as Red Saints, as a novel.
Yeah,
I adapted your one into way more of a crazy psychopath.
Oh yeah, it's fine though.
And I've actually adapted my one into even more of a crazy psychopath.
To be fair, my character was not all there. You're talking about a priest trained to kill by a church that was then effectively excommunicated and with hunting him down. He was pretty messed up to begin with.
Yeah,
and then we had the beer baron. We had the beer baron in that game.
We did.
Oh, the beer baron, yeah. That was a different one. That was the fantasy one, the beer baron, I think, right?
We're reminiscing at this point. This
the case in point, though.
That can be another episode. We can just talk about memorable moments from Alchemy if you want. But again, like we said, this is the point for us, that we can recall these moments from games that we played 6+ years ago in some cases, if not longer. Clearly, because they just stick in our mind because the creativity came from that the system allowed us to do that. Because we didn't have to bury ourselves in trying to work out how this character does this or how this character does that or how many roles we do here. It just let things be more free for.
Well, this comes on to another thing.
Oh, go
on. Speed was essential in this game. The one thing that I really, really didn't like from running 4th edition and to a point playing 5th edition. I love playing Streets of Mir. We've had a fantastic time. I think it's more down to the experience of our illustrious dungeon master and the amount of hours that we put into it ourselves. But still, combat takes a long time. Long time. If even if we get into a battle here, and we will be getting into a battle very soon, I have no idea how many episodes that battle will be, if I'm honest, because it takes a long time, especially as you start to level up and level up and level up. You've got a lot of dice to roll, you've got a lot of numbers to put together
and options to choose from.
It becomes an accountancy sheet somewhat. It becomes a task of accountancy. Now here's a sort of bit of backstory on me. When I was in sixth form, so sort of grades 12 and 13 for everyone outside, I took 2 very different paths. I took media production and film production, and then originally I took maths, physics, media production, and accountancy.
Do for A levels, yeah?
Yeah, for my A levels. I walked into the accountancy, and the woman who was running it, she did that that edgy tutor thing that says X amount of you are going to fail.
You're going to fail.
I went, I'm going to go there. So I've never been a fan of accountancy. So this has bled into the game design of this. Speed. Card against card, couple of numbers, low numbers. But because cards are wider in how they are, there's a bit more of a spread. Still very exciting, but you can get it done pretty bloody quick.
And more importantly with that as well, you're holding all your cards in your hand. So you can pick. If you think if you've got a high card and you need this to work, you can play a definitive high number.
Or you can stuff it.
Poll.
Yeah, you can deliberately stuff things. If I wanted to fail in the cat house, I could have very well failed in the cat house. Player 2, I could have made a silly soul of myself in that cat house. I made my character very embarrassed. But no, I wanted to make our game master embarrassed instead.
And again, that comes back to it's a storytelling device. If you wanted your character to be a bit more abundant, then you would just play a weaker card there and get a negative result. We won't go into too much mechanics, but negative results aren't necessarily a bad thing for your character long term. We'll cover that in the mechanics side of things later on. But it lets you tell a more interesting story. It's not always about trying to succeed. Sometimes failure can be rewarding and can be just as interesting or more interesting than succeeding cleanly. I mean, talking about it as well in terms of ease and mechanics and stuff, you mentioned it before there, there's modularity to this. So again, we've played many iterations of this at this point, and every time we've done that, one of us has bolted on a new mechanic to see how something works very easily. One of the things I tried at one point in the Wild West was your gun was your hand size. So if you had a small pistol, you only had 6 shots. If you had a shotgun, when you had 2 shots, you could play multiple cards. If you had a lever action rifle, you had a longer number of cards. But again, then that means your deck is burning faster if you're going through it that quickly, because you've got to balance these things. It just gives you that ability to tell a more interesting story and be more mechanically diverse if it helps create a more interesting world. It gives you a built-in difficulty slider too. I was playing that world quite cruelly. Ammo was scarce. You had to think about pulling that trigger, because if you ran out of bullets, you were done. You couldn't just refresh your hand. You had to take time to pull more bullets out of the chamber. So it can get dicey. But
character builds as well are a lot more versatile, because there's no classes per se.
No.
You create your own skills as well. That's something we can also get into with mechanics.
Yeah, but basically there are 3 different types of characters, character sheets that you can pick up. The aspects that we were talking about, the mental, physical, and social aspect. We wanted to make these characters nice and round, where some people are good at one thing, bad at another? Do you want to be, you want to be the sword or the silver tongue? Did I get that right for our first title that we ever played, Streets of Rage? I did. Fantastic. So one of you can be the silver tongue, one of you can be the brain box, one of you can be the the hammer wielding orc who inevitably bisects everyone that they meet. That's completely fine, and then it goes from there.
But then on the flip side, it allows you to have non-combat driven campaigns.
Absolutely.
You can build characters that are mental and social focused. Yeah, they can fight, but it doesn't have to be the core aspect of their character. So then it gives the storytellers more opportunity to not have combat be a core part of a story. We've done campaigns before where our characters were an engineer and a spy, I think it was. It was a sci-fi one.
That was another sci-fi one, wasn't it?
Yeah. I went engineer and I think Matt went spy. So we weren't combat characters. So we got into a fight. We got beaten easily. But then
that was an Oculus, wasn't it? I put you guys in Oculus.
Yep.
This was ages ago. Again. But reminiscing. Right.
We got caught.
Can't stop making us reminisce.
I'm
not bloody making us reminisce. Matt, we've been railroading this, Matt. What do you have to say, Matt?
I mean, in concept, we've kind of nailed it down exactly what it is in concept. It is an easy to pick up, collaborative storytelling and role-playing system, which is versatile.
Quick and dirty and versatile.
Quick, dirty, versatile, and incredibly fun. Strategic as well. Potentially more. It has different strategic elements than something dice-based. So.
Yeah, I think you're able to with a deck of cards. I think picking a deck of cards was a real boon for us, really.
It gives you the ability to have an advanced knowledge of what you can potentially score. So that means you know what each potential turn of yours is worth. So you have a rough idea of I'm likely to succeed here, I'm not likely to succeed here. Do I take a hit here to get this hit back? You can use that to sort of navigate a bit more around it and give you another strategic layer in that thought process as well.
I'll tell you what, it frees up that character sheet of numbers as well.
Oh yeah. But we will get into mechanics and character sheets and all that good stuff in our next topic video about
couple of videos where we transfer from 5th edition to Alchemy. Myself and Matt are going to be going through the system piece by piece and transferring over Cassius, Gracchus, Tormund, and
Calthar.
Fuck, forgot my own character's name. And indeed, the world. We'll be taking it through step by step to introduce the system a little bit more before we get into the lovely boss battle.
Indeed. Well, on that note, we will leave you there. So, where can everyone find you, chaps?
Still not on mine.
I haven't been using my Twitter.
That's probably wisely. Well, you can find me on Minds at Matt Warthouse Author, obviously on this YouTube channel where you're watching us now. Thank you.
At some point, Matt can probably tell you what my Mind's username is because I definitely follow him. I have no idea how to log on. I'm such a bloody.
I remember I found your account.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see. I'll probably find it again
another time.
Another time. So, take care, everyone, and we will see you next time.